Hi everyone, so I wanted to go over our fraction line plots worksheet. Yesterday, you guys used the table to complete a line plot. Today, you are going to answer the questions based on the line plot and on the table. So let's read our directions. Use the table and line plot to answer the questions below. Show all your work. Number 1. What is the difference between the amount of sugar in orange juice and the fruit drink? So the first thing I'm going to do is look at my table. I'm going to find orange juice. Then I'm going to find fruit juice. Now remember, we're looking for the difference, which means we're going to subtract. So we're going to subtract 3/8, which is the amount of sugar in fruit juice, minus 1/8, which is the amount of sugar in orange juice. If I subtract 3/8 minus 1/8, I get 2/8. That is the difference between the amount of sugar in orange juice and the amount of sugar in the fruit drink. Let's look at number 2. How many foods have 4/8 cup of sugar if you eat them 3 times a week? Now remember, 3 times per week is what the whole table is based on. So we need to look at how many foods have 4/8 of a cup of sugar. So I'm going to use my line plot. I'm going to look at 4/8. Then I need to look at how many X's are here that represent 4/8. Remember, I used my table with all these different foods to create my line plot. So for this question, how many foods have 4/8 cup of sugar? I need to count the X's. 1, 2. Since there are 2 X's, I know that 2 foods have 4/8 cup of sugar. Number 3. How many foods have between 2/8 and 4/8 cup of sugar? So we're looking for how many foods. That means we're going to count the X's on the line plot. And we're going to look between 2/8 and 4/8. So we have 2/8 and 4/8. So I circled it for you. We're going to count the amount of X's that are between 2/8 and 4/8. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That 8 represents the amount of food between 2/8 and 4/8 cups of sugar. Number 4. How many foods have between 5/8 and 1 and 2/8 cup of sugar? So we're looking for the amount of food between 5/8 and 1 and 2/8. We're going to do the same as we did for number 3. I'm looking at 5/8 and I'm looking at 1 and 2/8. I'm going to count the X's because the X's, remember, represent the food. So let's count. 1, 2, 3. There are 3 X's, which means there are 3 foods between 5/8 and 1 and 2/8. Let's take a look at the last question, number 5. What is the difference between the most sugary food and the least sugary food? So we're looking for the difference, which means we're going to subtract. And we're looking for the most sugary food, which is the largest number, 1 and 2/8. And the least sugary food, which is 1/8. I'm going to subtract 1 and 2/8, the most sugary food, from the least sugary food, 1/8. When I subtract 1 2/8 minus 1/8, I get 1 1/8.